So The Closer came out. This is David Chappelle's final special for Netflix that he said this is it, and he called it The Closer. And I started seeing a bunch of people talking about it on Twitter. It was trending. There was a bunch of rage going on. And I'm like, you know what? Before I even read into what these people are talking about, I'm going to go ahead and just go watch The Closer myself. So I did. And I laughed a lot. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was very heartfelt. I'm going to do a little spoilers, by the way. I need to talk about it. So if you have not seen it, I'm sorry. I have to talk about some of the stuff that he talks about, all right? It might ruin a little bit of it. I mean, just fair warning, okay? So he targets the trans community fairly heavy. I mean, it's pretty much the entire thing is about calling them out for, I don't know, hypocrisy, thin skin, but layered throughout the entire special, he references a good friend of his who happens to be transgender, or rather happened to be transgender. She is no longer on this world, and the reason why is because she defended David Chappelle. She came out and said some stuff on Twitter in his defense, and the trans community ate her up and ripped her apart, and she killed herself. And it was really sad. And you can see that David Chappelle was very saddened by this, and very grateful to have a friend that would defend him, because as he states in this special, he has nothing against transgender people, right? He makes fun of everyone. That's simply the case. If you watched anything from David Chappelle, No One's Safe, I mean, a real good comedian will do that. Will make fun of everyone and use everything in their power to make people laugh. These people, I say these people, all right, because it's not all trans people, right? It is the offended. It is the people that are triggered when someone mentions it, when someone doesn't agree with it. Some people don't understand it and won't ever understand it. There's a point where we have to know that not everyone will ever agree with everything, right? I mean, there's these people out there that will not accept it. They will never accept the fact that there are going to be people out there that won't understand, and nor will they want to understand. And they're raging. So Netflix put out The Closer, and they've had controversy about things that they have posted. Cuties, more specifically. There was a lot of people stopping their Netflix accounts, and they kept it on there. I don't agree with it, but they kept it on. And when you hear what they say, what they respond, and here's a response. So Netflix responds to far-left outrage over David Chappelle's "We support his artistic freedom." I'm going to read this to you, and it's, man, I don't like the idea of what Cuties is. I don't like the sexualization of kids. I know that they say, well, it's actually calling it out. Okay, yeah, well, it's still doing it. It's still making that more mainstream. Like, people are seeing that, and it's gross. I don't like that at all. It shouldn't, Well, let me just show you guys what this says here. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos addressed outrage from some inside the company over a new comedy special featuring legendary comedian Dave Chappelle, saying that the company supports Chappelle's artistic freedom. The Netflix special, The Closer, has been widely praised by many online and in reviews, with audience score reaching as high as 97% on the popular website Rotten Tomatoes. Chappelle triggered the far left with jokes about the trans community, defending J.K. Rowling and going after the LGBT community for trying to cancel a rapper over a comment the rapper made. In a Friday memo sent after Netflix's quarterly business review, a 2-day gathering of the top 500 employees at the company, Sarandos offered guidance on how managers should handle upset employees and angry talent, And here it is right here. This is the full statement. I'm just going to read it in its entirety to you. And here we go. I wanted to follow up on The Closer, Dave Chappelle's latest special, as several of you have reached out following QBR asking what to say to your teams. It never feels good when people are hurting, especially our colleagues, so I wanted to give you some additional context. You should also be aware that some talent may join third parties in asking us to remove the show in the coming days, which we are not going to do. Chappelle is one of the most popular stand-up comedians today, and we have a long-standing deal with him. His last special, Sticks and Stones, also controversial, is our most watched, stickiest, and most award-winning stand-up special to date. As with our other talent, we work hard to support their creative freedom, even though this means there will always be content on Netflix some people believe is harmful, like Cuties, 365 Days, 13 Reasons Why, or My Unorthodox Life. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know any of these or what they are. Obviously, there was the whole controversy with Cuties when it first came out and people were outraged, so I know of Cuties. But I don't know what these other ones are or why they're controversial. But, you know, they make a good point. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about hate speech, and I said there's a difference, quoting Tom MacDonald, there's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate. And someone called me out. They were like, that's just a term. Hate speech, it doesn't exist. It's just speech. You're the one who declares if it's hate or not. Sure, it could be a terrible take. It could be a take that you think is horrible, that targets specific people, but you give it the power. Right? And to be able to see these people saying these kind of things is important. To know what kind of speech should be shunned, should be shamed, for people to go, that right there, that's someone who's a terrible human being, the things that they're saying. Right? So it falls along the lines of these movies or things you might not agree with, but then we have a comparison, right? We have something to go, this here is bad. That makes this over here much, much better, right? But anyway, continuing on with his statement, it's almost done here. Several of you have asked where we draw the line on hate. We don't allow titles, Netflix, that are designed to incite hate or violence, and we don't believe The Closer crosses that line. I recognize, however, that distinguishing between commentary and harm is hard, especially with stand-up comedy, which exists to push boundaries. Some people find the art of stand-up to be mean-spirited, but our members enjoy it, and it's an important part of our content offering. Some people find the art of stand-up to be mean-spirited. Who cares? So, it's not inciting violence. The only thing that I felt after watching that was sadness, actually. It was funny, I laughed a bunch of times, but I felt sad because you can tell that Dave Chappelle really felt for his friend that killed herself. Because the more when you hear the whole story about how, you know, their interaction and that it was she was a terrible stand-up comedian, but then he realized that it wasn't necessarily, her humor wasn't the best in stand-up comedy, but she was an incredible comedian, but she needed the right environment, and he helped actually foster that. And you know, he gained an actual friendship with this person, and felt sad about the way that it all went down. But let me just continue here. In terms of our commitment to inclusion, we're working hard to ensure more people see their lives reflected on screen and that underrepresented communities are not defined by the Singe story. So we're proud of titles like Sex Education, Young Royals, Control Z, and Disclosure. Externally, particularly in stand-up comedy, artistic freedom is obviously a different standard of speech than we allowed internally, as the goals are different. Entertaining people versus maintaining a respectful, productive workplace. Today's conversation on Entertain the World was timely. These are hard and uncomfortable issues. We all bring different values and perspectives, so thank you for being a part of the conversation. As it's important, we're clear about our operating principles. So it's interesting because, we see a lot of these inclusion stories that they're talking about here where they want, he says something specifically here. In terms of our commitment to inclusion, which I'm all about, right? Cool. Normalize everything. Like, I'm fine with, well, all right, within reason, okay? But I think you know where I'm going with this. We're working hard to ensure more people see their lives reflected on screen and that underrepresented communities are not defined by the Singe story. Okay, so I wasn't going to actually bring this up, but, because this is like another thing, but they just made Superman gay, right? They made Robin bisexual, or excuse me, Superman bisexual, right? There's nothing wrong with being bisexual. That's not what I'm talking about. But changing something for inclusion is ruining something else. Make something new, right? If you really want to give someone representation, create something for them instead of pandering to them and changing something that other people like. See, here, let me give you scraps of this other character. That's what it feels like. It's kind of like a slap in the face because you're basically saying to both sides of the aisle, like, you don't get to keep your beloved character. Well, let's just give you this beloved character that changes just to pander to you, instead of making something new. All right, but let me stay more on tune with this. So, of course, people are freaking out. They are going nuts. Dave Chappelle's new comedy special denounced by equality groups. Netflix employees, even some employees are freaking out. In fact, some of them actually got arrested. Now, this basically starts talking about a lot of the things that he said. I can't actually say some of these things because guess what? They would probably freak out and come after me. And funny enough, well, I'll show you. Check this out. So Netflix suspends trans employee who tweeted about Dave Chappelle special. That's how the left is pushing this. That's how they're pushing it. They're saying Netflix suspended the trans employee who tweeted about the David Chappelle special. Okay. That is absolutely gaslighting to the max, and that's what they do. They've picked and chosen the way that they can craft this narrative. It turns out that Netflix CEO, when he was talking and giving his employees, those top 500 employees, a way to speak to their subordinates and how to handle the heat that they're getting for the closer, they tried to barge in there and be activists and try to, change the mind of the CEOs and cancel Dave Chappelle, basically. Well, they got fired for that. That's the reason they got fired, because they barged in. Netflix fires 3 employees who tried to force their way into an executive meeting over David Chappelle's alleged transphobia. So they're now mixing it and saying, oh no, they got booted because they're trans. No, they didn't. That is not the reason. And it's the same thing with David Chappelle's The Closer. If you watched it at all, you would know. And he even says it. He's like, I've never been against transgender people at all. Of course, he just makes a joke. It's just about white people, But it was funny because he does make fun of white people a lot. And that's okay. I don't care. It doesn't affect me, right? They're trying to claim that he is causing violence. And here's Tara Field, or at Reign of Terror on Tara on Twitter. So I was like, you know what? Let me read this thread. Let me go find out what this thread's all about. And of course, I'm assuming if you don't know Twitter, this usually means that I am blocked. And in fact, I am. Interesting. Because I have never been against transgender people either. I have no problem with an adult choosing to do whatever they want to do as long as it doesn't affect me or kids. You don't mess with kids. Stop trying to force things on kids, okay? If you're an adult, you do what you want. That's where I stand. I know some conservatives don't like that, and some liberals say that's not far enough. It doesn't matter. That's my stance, okay? That's how I've always been. Well, but I'm blocked. But of course, I don't think they realize that there is private windows that you can, in fact, see what it is. So I opened it up, because I wanted to see. And this person is talking about all the people that aren't offended, but that have been killed because of course they claim that it's because of them being trans. And I was reading through these, and we don't know if this is actually the case. It just happens to be people who were trans that got killed. The first one is an example in Chicago. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if you know anything about Chicago, but people get killed there all the time. And it's crazy. They don't call it Chirac for nothing, okay? I'm from Chicago. It's actually the only place that I've been shot at in my lifetime. It was a scary thing, but it's not a safe place, okay? Lori Lightfoot, yeah, you're doing a terrible job as mayor. Side note. Anyway, back to this. So I'm not going to read this, okay? But she's basically saying, well, we're not offended. We're just getting killed. It's like, okay, well, everyone gets killed, and you don't really have proof that it has anything to do with someone being trans, or if that's the case. And I don't know if it is. And maybe sometimes it could be, right? But David Chappelle, if you actually listen to it, he was making fun of the militant people. People make fun of vegans all the time, but they're making fun of the militant vegans. Not a lot of people know that I have been eating eggs randomly. I haven't had eggs in a little while, but I try to eat vegan. I was fully vegan for a long time, but I don't talk about it much. People make a bigger deal out of it than I do. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. I don't really want to talk to you about what my eating habits are because they're mine. I don't care about your eating habits. And, people always say, like, how do you know what the vegan is? And it's like, oh, they'll tell you. And it's like, I don't know if that's really the case. Maybe with the militant ones, the people that make it their entire ideology. That's not how I do it. Because how I eat, it doesn't affect you at all. It goes same with my sexuality. My sexuality doesn't affect you at all. So why would I make it like on the forefront of like everything that I represent? It shouldn't. So going back to what Netflix was saying about normalizing inclusivity and what all that, how is that representative of a person? What all gay people are like rainbows and butterflies and glitter in the air? Like, no, that is a portion of them, sure. But are all gay people like that? Probably not. Are all masculine men super like buff and going to the gym all the time? Not necessarily either. It's like these people are the ones that are adhering to the stereotypes and then getting angry at people that adhere to stereotypes. Let's normalize being a good human being, right? I mean, and stop focusing on the wrong things. These people are, in the special, David Chappelle calls out these people that are just reiterating the main talking points. He even he brings up many examples about how someone walked up to him and is like, I have a trans daughter that, you're the one who's blah, blah, blah. And he asked, like, did you even watch my special? Do you even know what you're talking about? Or are you just reiterating what you've heard, what you've been told to say? And it really did just prove him right. So if you watch the closer, and then watch how people reacted to it, you could see exactly what he was talking about. He called out exactly how people were going to respond for what he was talking about. And it was masterfully done. The dude is a genius. David Chappelle, you are a genius. You're hilarious, but you're also incredibly smart. How he responded with his 8 minutes and 42 seconds. I don't remember that 46 seconds, that special that he did. It's like, okay, well, I don't agree with everything he says, and that's okay. We should be allowed to not agree with every single thing anyone says, right? Because we're all humans and we're all completely different. So, I mean, I'm going to finish this up with this tweet. I tweeted this out, and this is from Rob Schneider, and I'm just going to read this to you guys. He was talking about Saturday Night Live, but I think it fits on so many different levels. He says, much late night comedy is less about being funny and more about indoctrination by comedic imposition. People aren't really laughing at it as much as cheering on the rhetoric. It no longer resembles a comedy show. It's more like some sort of liberal Klan meeting. I mean, that could be really scaled up on so many different things. It's not about Saturday Night Live. It's not about even just late night comedy. It's comedy in general. It's movies in general. It's the news in general. Like, you think about the news. You're getting information, but it's based on trying to convince you of a narrative. And same with movies. They're shoving things down your throat. They're not even worried about making it good, making a good video game, making a good movie. They just want to make sure that they're getting their message across. And people don't want to be lectured to, right? I don't want to be lectured. I want to be entertained. And I want to laugh when I talk or go to a comedy show. I think about Stephen Colbert and that dancing vaccination, like the COVID, what are they? The syringes, so cringy. But that's a perfect example of what this is. It's them trying to indoctrinate the masses, and people aren't laughing. They're going, "Yay, you're so virtuous." I miss the days that SNL was funny. I mean, I'm early 80s child. I was born in 84. And now I live in 1984. But I grew up watching Chris Farley, Chris Rock, Rob Schneider was on there back before they pushed him out because he didn't follow their narrative. Steve Martin. These greats of comedy that were about making you laugh. They wanted to make you laugh. And that's what they did. And they pushed. I mean, we just lost Norm Macdonald. This dude's hilarious. His dry comedy is unmatched. George Carlin, my goodness. I posted a video of George Carlin today. I can't play it for you because he swears a lot. But the dude was a freaking prophet. Comedy is just not the same anymore. The vaccine, yeah, that's what it was. That was embarrassing. Phil Hartman, yeah, exactly. What another great. That was a shame that what happened to him. Hilarious though. These old school comedians, like that's how it used to be. It was about making you laugh, not following PC culture. You know, if it offended someone, that made people laugh harder. Because guess what? When you get offended, people are going to make fun of you because you have thin skin. And that long tweet, my goodness, it is, I mean, this is just kind of funny how it looks here with all of these this long list of just people. Well, all these people were killed, whether we know if they were killed because they were trans or not. It's like, okay, well, what about all the other people that get killed all the time? Because it happens. There's terrible people in the world that don't care if you're trans or not. You know, it's give me your money or else I'm going to kill you. Those people exist. That's rather dark, but you know, these people, this thread was talking about thin skin or not. And they even reference saying, I'll bring it up. Hold on, let me show. I'll just read this spot to you. I'll just bring it back real quick. Being trans is actually pretty funny. If you're someone who actually knows about the subject matter, how could volunteering for a second puberty not be funny? Wait. Thin skin. Wait, here we go. You try going to a pharmacy and having them call you sir in front of everyone while you pick your estradiol. I don't know what that is. I'm guessing some sort of estrogen hormone something. Yeah, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to know that it's uncomfortable probably, and maybe if you are embarrassed and have thin skin and you don't want people to call you sir, go through a private pharmacy or, you know, order it in advance. So people don't announce what you're getting. I mean, it sounds like you got triggered by someone calling you sir. Maybe you look like a sir, and someone that's just kind of, people don't understand that. And guess what? They might never understand. This is the thing. Stop trying to have other people validate you. You need to validate yourself. You need to affirm your own worth and stop basing it on what others think of you. What happened to that? What happened to the ability to say, I'm valuable, I'm worth it, I don't need anyone out there to tell me whether I do or not, because I know that I am. We need to bring that back, because if everyone felt that way, this wouldn't happen anymore. They wouldn't care about what other people call them, pronouns or whatnot. Can we normalize not using guys as a gender neutral term? Who cares? Who cares? Why does it matter to you? Oh, because I'm not validated. Okay, that's your problem. Stop relying on other people to base your worth as a human being. You do that. It's 100% on you. And if you can't validate yourself, you're never going to be validated by others, because there's always going to be someone out there that will say, no, I don't owe you anything. I don't want to give you anything. I don't agree with what you say, and I will never validate you. You're never going to have that person change their mind, ever. So accept that you can't change that and worry about yourself. They don't want to do that. They want to focus on forcing others to bow to them, to treat them better than others, which no one should be treated on a higher level than anyone else. We're all human beings. We all bleed the same color. We all die, period. All right. So anyway, please go watch The Closer, because it actually is very eye-opening. He opens his heart about the story that obviously affected him a lot, and he even said, he's like, look, this is the last time I'm even going to talk about the LGBTQ community. There's a bunch more letters in there, but whatever, he's not going to talk about it anymore. Okay. And his exact response was, until we're all laughing together. I love that. And until these people that need validation from others learn how to not worry about what others think of them, they won't ever be able to laugh at Dave Chappelle.